Welcome to Mental Health Monday. My name is Mick Coyle. Coming up on the programme this week.
When your mental health's really bad, you don't value yourself at all, and you form a hatred towards yourself and towards life.
At what point did you feel the confidence to go, you know what, I can do something with this. I can take this out and show other people how to do it.
There's a strong chance I could have been dead, to be fair. I know that sounds really dramatic, but, I've tried to take my own life a few times in the past. I do look back and think, how did I actually cope and function?
And I'll be reminding you how you can make connections with mental health organisations within your community. It's Mental Health Monday. The home of the UK's conversation about mental health. Welcome to Mental Health Monday. My name's Mick. Great to have you with us. Thank you for your streams, your shares and your downloads. Speaking at the time of recording, a really difficult time for the UK. A lot of problems out and about on the streets, a lot of distrust within the community, a lot of people taking matters into their own hands, and that ended in some terrible, terrible scenes that people are seeing up and down the country. And I'm sorry to say that there wasn't a podcast last week. I was away last week, and I was away without phones and without the ability to see the news agenda. And that's a difficult thing for me to do, actually, given my sort of day job as a journalist. But I stepped away deliberately because it's been a really busy 2024 and came back to see these incidents taking place around the country. And I know that during those times, it's sometimes nice to have the normal things happening as normal. So apologies if there was a week where we didn't have a podcast in the middle of that. And if you needed it just to get your head away from things, it wasn't there. We've got a podcast for you this week, which I hope will sort of take you off to a slightly different place and maybe give you a sense of positive people within a community doing some fantastic work. Because Sarah Gustafson is our guest. Now, Sarah was diagnosed at the age of 24. We're going to talk about autism. We're going to talk about ADHD. But alongside that, OCD, depression, eating disorders, attempts on suicide as well. That's all part of the conversation with Sarah today. She is focused now on using her skill set as a fine artist and a teacher to using her experience to help and support people from a range of different backgrounds, a range of different ages across her community to engage with art and to engage in conversation, and most importantly, to engage in community, to feel like a part of that community as part of the work that she's doing. Two different organisations I'll put the links to in the podcast notes. You Artistic, one of them, and the second is a new project called the Dopamine Rooms, which is getting up and about in Liverpool very, very soon. But Sarah's going to share her story, a personal story. And I'm really grateful for how open and honest Sarah was during the conversation about where the whole thing came from and where her journey began.
So for me, it was my own personal journey that spiked this. So I've got autism and ADHD, and I was undiagnosed, and it wasn't known about till I was like 24. So prior to that, I had like eating disorders. I've got a diagnosis of OCD, depression, self-harm, you name it. I was in a really bad place, and I kind of started to learn about them conditions. But alongside of that, I was doing my master's in fine art, and it didn't make sense why I was absolutely distraught in one area of my life but thriving in another. And I thought art has definitely been the tool for me to make sure that I can speak and express what's going on inside. And so I just put everything together. I'm a qualified teacher. I've got a PGCE. And when I was doing that, I noticed that I was teaching like so many different classes in the same class, because children need different needs, especially if they're neurodiverse like myself. So then I just moved away from that and just wrote my own programs. And started to put in all my life experiences into helping myself. And then when I was getting well and things were working for me, then educating others on how to do that too. So that's where it began.
Have you found that in terms of those early experiences, that they were kind of all kind of like interlinked with some of those related to outside factors? Was it sort of the neurodevelopmental stuff which was sort of causing the issues? Have you sort of got your head around where your head was at in those earlier years?
I think I was obviously autistic. That's something you're born with, as well as ADHD, and being undiagnosed, I was always like misunderstood. So I was always like doing things wrong, or being the odd one out, or I always felt really different. And I think because of that, I felt like I couldn't cope or function properly in my own life, even though I masked really well and no one has ever known. So I developed OCD. And from that was really, really bad intrusive thoughts. And these thoughts were like the most disgusting things that could come into someone's head and mind. And I didn't understand them, and I just think I was a bad person. So I think from that come a lot of depression. a lot of guilt, a lot of really bad feelings, anxiety, and it just all spiraled in my head. You know, other than, and my dad was ill at the time as well, so I had that stress on top of us. There was a lot going on when I was younger, but I think definitely the undiagnosed ADHD and autism was a massive contributing factor. I did lose my nan and granddad when I was young in a month, and my other granddad, so I had a bit of loss as well. So there was just loads going on really when I was younger, but definitely do believe that misunderstanding of me and how I was taught and who I was and why I couldn't keep friends and why I was behaving like this was definitely a massive contributing factor to my mental health. Yeah, definitely.
And I think that's a great example. If you're going through that, plus you also see the world in a slightly different way, or the way that you view the world, of course, all of those combination of factors are going to swirl around you in such a way that actually, does have an impact on yourself and on your mental health.
I think what we need to move away from as a society is the fact that we've all got a mental health, haven't we? It doesn't matter if it's feeling good one day or not the next. And people use it, don't they? We use it like, oh, they've got mental health, it's wrong, but we've all got one. But it definitely, being autistic myself, if you can imagine a world where everything's heightened around you and you don't even understand that. So, it feels like there's a brass band, bass band going on behind you when the radio's on, and you can hear absolutely everything from someone like opening the wrapper to a sweet to, footsteps on the floor and mixed conversations when you're in a room. You can imagine that heightened anxiety and then the fear of going to places after that caused anxiety, and then obviously anxiety is classed as mental health. So these misunderstandings of yourself and how others also treat and teach neurodiversity definitely contributes to mental health. And I know that from a teaching perspective too, that, being in a classroom where it's not suited to your needs, or, you feel like you're stupid because you're not being able to take information in like everybody else and stuff, can definitely, again, contribute to feeling depressed, feeling worthless, and all this has massive impact upon your mental health overall. So definitely.
Did you always have art as like an outlet for yourself? Was that something that you did from a young age, or is that something that you learned later on?
I think everybody, never mind neurodiverse or not, has got a gift. But I think when you're autistic, you kind of have one that's a bit heightened and you kind of zoom in on it. And when I was younger, like my mum said, even like 18 months old, my granddad would come round and be like, oh, what are you like colouring in? And my mum would be like, that's not me who's done that, that's Sarah. So even from like when I was little, it was a gift, if you know what I mean. It was something that I was excelling in really well from an early age. So, and I enjoyed it so much as well. So, being ADHD, we like, attention and dopamine. So when you're good at something, people recognise it, it feels good, doesn't it? As well as I enjoy doing it. And I believe that is a recipe for success, something you enjoy, something that you're good at. And from that, that was one of the only things that made me feel happy. So I used to like volunteer doing the school plays, be painting murals. As I said, when I'd done a full-time art course, as soon as I left school, I completely got rid of every other subject. And I was an intelligent person as well. So, I could have been pressured into like going through law or science or all these things, but I just didn't want to. I just wanted to draw. So I specialised in fine art, photography, graphic design, 3D design, contextual studies, and graphics. I don't know if I said graphics, probably did. I specialised in all these subjects in my A-levels, and then took them on to do a diploma, a degree, and then a master's. And yeah, I expressed myself through film, through video, through all different ways. But when I look back, my first projects were on my dad, who wasn't well. And then it was on me because I didn't understand myself. And this was pre-diagnosis. And then when I did get a diagnosis, I started to look at film. And I'd do videos called like, Who Do You Want Me To Be Today? I did a video where I'm just changing my face over and over again, because I felt like with autism, I was almost masking and taking that like costume off and putting that costume on to cope in this environment and doing it over and over again. And it was massively exhausting. So art has been there as a background, but it definitely is being used as an expressive tool for that mirrored my life, whether I even knew it or not at the time, if that makes sense. It's definitely been the reason why I'm successful and, an outlet that I've had. So yeah, I'd say it's just something that I've been born with, and it's who I am.
What do you think would have happened if you didn't have the art to turn to? If you think, how would that stuff have manifested itself out into the real world, do you think?
Well, I know now more of my ADHD, I'm like really impulsive, and it was hard to regulate my emotions. So, if you can imagine a world where you're so frustrated, not knowing who you are, you're making mistakes all the time. I was kind of drinking a lot as well, looking for an escape through, alcoholism and partying and attention and that type of environment. I definitely was going down the wrong path in that way. And I'm such an addictive personality that things can just literally take me, because when you're on the spectrum, you lack dopamine. So any form of stimulant enhances that for the time being, but the next day it decreases it massively. So I was more vulnerable to these, substances, if you like, which was getting me into more and more fights. So I was arguing with people, I was lashing out at people. When I say lashing out, it was almost like I couldn't deal with injustice. So if somebody was getting picked on, I couldn't handle it. I would be the one that would be like, don't do that. And then it resulted in me being really frustrated. So there's a strong chance I could have been in prison. And also, yeah, I think there's a strong chance I could have been dead, to be fair. I know that sounds really dramatic, but, I've tried to take my own life a few times in the past, and I do look back and think, how did I actually cope and function? And it was a factor that was there through the hardest times of my life more. But when I left school from the age of 16 to 23, within that time was like a turbulent time in my life, crucial. So I do believe that's how important it was to me at that time.
Have you had chance to, or do you get chance to look back at the work that you produced during those darkest moments? And then does that reflect how you were feeling at the time? Are there sort of clues that are in there about what you were going through?
Definitely. Like if you look back, one of my degree pieces is called Anxiety, and then literally filmed myself having panic attacks. I have a vlog called Mental Health Diaries, and I'd expose myself in terms of, I was this girl that was like, pretty and all this when I was younger, and I thought I was gorgeous. And online, you have that version of you, don't you? You dressed up to the nines, and you've got this perfect life. But it used to annoy me because I knew that's not what I felt. So I'd literally expose that other side to myself and video myself having panic attacks, and I'd literally just throw it all out there in terms of like a way to say to other girls, like, and other people, like, this isn't real. I'm struggling. Like, this is what's going on. And I'd do screenshots of all these images of me like fighting, and these all be blurry, and then I'd paint them. So you can definitely see the torture in me pictures at that stage in my life massively. I think, just looking back now, I've got a course called The Alchemist Mindset, and the whole handbook is full of my artwork completely. And you can see as you look through, my eyes, the sides, and there's different like markings, and I love expression through art. So it would be more, it wouldn't be like cool and like floaty. It'd be more like sketchy and rippy and, like turbulent. But definitely was definitely a voice. But even if it wasn't an expression to see, it was almost a minute process as well. Even now, if I'm drawing or something, I can sit there, and if I've got things that I haven't thought about for a while, I can just start crying when I'm drawing, or start, getting myself in a state, or equally, I can become really chilled and calm, and that is because art is a way like that. There's the one side of your brain like calms down. It literally, you be mindful so that you can start to process any like floating emotions that are about. So yeah, now definitely you can definitely see in a lot of my work things that have happened in my life. I lost somebody to suicide last April, and I drew a picture not long ago, and he used to call me an octopus, and you can absolutely see the grief in that picture. It breaks your heart looking at it. So I do believe it's such a powerful tool to express yourself. So
at what point did you think, you know what, I've got a bit of a superpower here that I can turn into something else, that rather be something that you just used for yourself, that you then use and sort of, talk about going into schools and sort of encourage other people to explore that? At what point did you feel the confidence to go, you know what, I can do something with this. I can take this out and show other people how to do it?
I used to chair a group called Ladders of Life, which is autistic and ADHD, and it was like 40 adults. And my opinion was really valued in there, to the point as I was only a member, but then they asked me to chair it. And I realised that I was so self-aware in terms of really understanding when it was me impulsivity, when it was procrastination, disorganisation, hyperactivity, and also was fascinated at the time by how it affected my life. I was 24, 25 when I got diagnosed. So for all these years, I didn't really understand myself. So I was proper committed at that time to really go inward. But also, I followed a few spiritual teachers, and a few of them literally started to uplift me, and I become obsessed a bit with quantum physics and quantum mechanics and the theories of how we can, almost not understand the world in different ways, and how the world can be used in different ways. And that really helped me as well. So I just felt like everything I was learning, everything I was putting together to emphasize and help my life, it's not out there. I've done every service the NHS could offer. I've done, every form of therapy, psychotherapy, like I was in everything, and there was still something really missing, and I noted it. And I knew that I could fill in them gaps. I even wrote my first course, The Alchemist Mindset, when I got kicked out of psychotherapy in the corridor, because I was like, they don't do this and they don't do that. And I strongly believe that if your self-esteem's high and if your mindset is more positive and you can train your brain to think and feel a certain type of way, it doesn't matter what condition you've got, where you've been or what you've done or where you're from, you can be well. And I'm living proof of that. So I just wanted to put all my skills together. And I just knew I had to go and do something with it.
You just say you got kicked out of psychotherapy?
Yeah.
Was that?
That was just typical of me. It was because I was late, and then I was like, and they were like, you'll have to wait in the corridor. And I was like, and then they just said, well, you're going to have to stay out there for the rest of the session. So I was like, But it was a really good timing, because I got the paper off the side and started to write The Alchemist Mindset, which now I go into schools and deliver for children plus 14 right the way through adults. And that's all about personal development, self-esteem, confidence, how to deal with conflict, how to recognise our thoughts and to not give them power. How to love ourselves in a way where we even accept compliments. It's all these things that no one was ever teaching me, that I had to kind of teach myself to start to become well. Because I think when your mental health's really bad, you don't value yourself at all, and you form a hatred towards yourself and towards life, and that is a mindset, and we don't realise that we've got power over that. Even if depression's super strong, there's still some form of us that can lean towards feeling better if we really push and train our brain to do that. And don't get me wrong, I still struggle with depression. It still comes. It's not like a magic wand, but it's just a knowing that and a taking responsibility a bit more for my own life that gave me my power back, that I really wanted to help other people achieve, because I was getting to counsellors and doctors and they were just throwing tablets at me. And, at the age of 19, I was on 80 milligrams of Prozac, which nobody even looked into the fact that it could be neurodiverse. No, everyone just threw tablets at me, and I just felt like there was a lot more out there. So everything I've been through, I think, has been for a reason. And that is what in itself as well helps me move with it. That feeling of like, this wasn't for nothing. It's all going to make itself known, and the reasons will become clear. And, I've helped a lot of people through my own pain, and that gives me power too.
What are those things that you recognise in those young people that you sit down with in terms of what they've experienced, maybe what they're going through, maybe what they're shielding themselves from? What are those things that you're able to recognise?
It depends on the group. So obviously I work with all different ages. I'd say if I go into schools plus 14, a common factor in the children I work with, that I work with neurodiverse and neurotypical children. My courses are for everyone. They're just taught in a neurodiverse way in terms of, little breaks and jumping around and playing games and, being colourful and stimulus, because I believe everyone can learn in a neurodiverse setting, a neurodiverse way of teaching, but not everyone can learn in a neurotypical setting. But the common denominator is confidence, hugely, self-esteem, anxiety, depression, body dysmorphia, massive body issues, being confused about sexuality is a huge one as well. I'd say some of the factors I've seen, a lot of self-harm, a lot of drug misuse as well for young people, in terms of, cannabis and these things. I'd say low self-esteem, confidence, and anxiety is probably the highest factors, especially in young women. But obviously within men, I feel like it's a lot more hidden, but it's still there dominantly. It's almost like people are scared to be themselves because they don't want to be judged and they don't want to be, they want to be accepted. There's so much pressure on young people now, And there was a lot when I was young, because the magazines were like size 0, and it was like this whole phenomenon that there was only one body type. But now it's Instagram, isn't it? Everyone looks chiseled to death. Everyone's got perfect teeth, and everyone's got like, plastic surgery, and everyone's constantly comparing themselves and having these images thrown in the face. So I'd say they was massively the common denominators in young people. I'd say in older people, it's loneliness, I'd say. I'd say it's loneliness, not being understood. For parents, it's loneliness within the household of being the parent that deals with majority of the problems, or it could be they're not understanding the child and they don't know how to go or where to go for help, or they feel like they're on their own when the child's the school's constantly pulling them in, constantly pulling them in, and they feel like it's just their child, and they're the odd one out and that, but I can tell everybody they're not. It's happening to millions of people, thousands of people. So I'd say they're the common factors. I think things like, fact that our society's, gas and electricity's gone up and people are struggling with money and food and stuff like that definitely, contributes to people's mental health now more than ever. But if I just had to generalist scan and pinpoint things just from what I'm saying now, it is that. And I have noticed children, I even work with like primary school, and they comment on the bodies a lot. Children comment so much. I think in primary school, the common denominator is more worry of the future, worry if something's going to happen to the families, worry that they're not going to have friends when they come into school, like that bullying, not having friendships, not forming them friendships. And these worries are massive to these children, and we can look at them as adults and be like, oh, they'll go to kids, they'll get over it. But they can lie awake all night worrying because someone won't sit next to them, And it's just having that space sometimes to just be able to express what's going on in the little head, and to look right like I do a game where we all sit around and we sort of meditation and we talk about what we put in the worry list. And then I'll ask people, do they want us help? Tell people they don't have to. And then if, say, like they say, I was worried because my mum and dad were fighting and it made me sad, I'd say, who else would make that sad? If the mum and dad was fighting, who else would? And all the kids would put hands up, so everyone looks round. And it's like, well, see, everyone else feels sad there too. So the kids are like shocked almost that other people would feel like this, so it's not just them. And I think just that in itself is a massive calming effect for children, to know that they can express emotions in a safe way, and other kids can relate to it and they're not like abnormal for feeling that type of way. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. I've waffled a little bit.
It's important, isn't it, that, young people get the opportunity to voice what it is that they're seeing, and also the opportunity to talk about it as well within that sort of like safe space. And I guess as well, if you've got the, with the artwork as well, you can express yourself in a way where there's no sort of right or wrong with art, is there? It's what you put out there. So yeah. I think it's hugely beneficial to those young people. Can I ask you about dopamine rooms, which is your sort of the new venture that you're sort of getting involved in? Dopamine is a fascinating thing because obviously you mentioned social media before. We're often looking for that hit, the thing that gets us, the brain that goes, yeah, absolutely, this is the sort of thing that I'm interested in. Let's look for the next version of that. You get the little sort of bonus. We link it now to social media, but it's out there in the real world, and it's out there in a much more fulfilling way as well. Just how are you exploring that whole dopamine hit?
Dopamine for me is a massive one. Being ADHD, particularly, my dopamine's really low, and I didn't know this, so I didn't understand how people could just have a nice life, go to work with a nice job and nice kids, and I just felt like I was like this bomb all the time, waiting for something to happen and needing drama to feed upon, and that was because my dopamine's low, and when that's low, it controls you. And when it's low, we can be addicted to finding things that are quick highs and quick fixes. So I'm lucky enough to have never took a drug. But I know if I had, I would be gone like that, because I had coffee a few years back for the first time, and my mum came to my house at Christmas and full drawer was full to the brim with these sachets, because I was like, because I'm so like addicted to things. So I started to look into that and how the reward system in our brain, keeps hold of dopamine and releases it. And for instance, if you took a stimulant drug, a class cocaine or something really bad like that, your dopamine level would completely rise to the point of feeling unbelievable. But then the next day, it'd completely drop, and the brain would go in this state, oh, you've made loads of dopamine, we don't need to make any more. So the little bit that you're producing, you're dropping. So therefore, you need more and more and more. And this is more dominant in people who are on the spectrum, who are more vulnerable. So I also realised that if you exercise daily, meditate daily, express yourself through art, learn a new fact, get sunlight, put your feet on the ground. Just there's loads of different techniques that you can actually do to get healthy dopamine, but it won't go through the roof, but it'll just go, but then it won't drop. So each time we start to build. And I thought, what a way in which I can enhance the dopamine of people, which will affect and better everyone's lives naturally, is from having a space. And I see that is designed to do that. So my dopamine rooms, I am an artist, and that's my form of creativity as well as meditation. All my courses I write, they're not all just massive art. They might be creative, or the way they're taught is in a creative way. It could be, games that we play in it or whatever. But they're all stimulants, they're all dopamine related. But I want to collaborate with loads of different teachers in the future, and teach them how to use their skill, what they've already got, in a neurodiverse way, that we can all contribute to this, and release dopamine in loads of healthy ways. So our dopamine's naturally rising in our body. So that was the name, Dopamine Rooms, and that's where it come from. And I've got so many ideas and plans for that, but it's going to be launching in September, and it's going to be taught in the Rhys Jones Centre in Croxteth. And that will be on Wednesday night for adults. We're going to do a man's group that runs from 6 till 7. That's going to be pop in, have a chat. Adam, our meditation teacher, our chill, cool boss guy, he's going to be there just having a cuppa, talking to the lads, just having a space where you can play games and chill. And then from 7, the doors are open to women if they want to join. And there's going to be some form of creative club going on that where we either draw or do something arty or meditate, or I've got bits of my courses that will run, or I might invite other teachers in, breath work, Kundalini, all these things that are going to come in and run every week in this space for adults. So that's the adults on a Wednesday. So that's going to be 6 till 7 for men, and then 7 till 9 for anyone. And that's going to be starting the 11th of September, and then every Wednesday term time. And then on a Thursday, we've got from 9:30 till 10:30 is a messy play, but this is for 3 months to 4 years. And it's for parents that have, for everyone, but, particularly parents who are having a bit of a hard time, just got a new baby, listening to cartoons all day and want a bit of adult conversation, and there's going to be prompt questions. My sister's just had twins, and I know how hard it is. She's got another little boy under 2. So she's really going through it at the minute, and her mental health's absolutely perfect in my eyes. She's never really struggled, and it tests the most strongest people. So if that was me, I don't know how I'd function and cope. So I just want people to have this space where they can come and have a cuppa, the babies can play, and it's going to be full of all vegan paint that they can eat and express. The babies can express themselves, but they can have a minute. And it's for parents, guardians, grandparents, anyone just to come, enjoy the space. And then from 11, we've got pathway people, parents and partners. So that is anyone who's on the spectrum, anyone who wants to understand the spectrum, even from an education perspective, if you're a teacher, anyone who's partner maybe, or children who want to understand your child. And you can come, it's like a support Q&A group for an hour and a half, where you just come and pick my brains there. And my director, her daughter, is, got some neurodiverse qualities and stuff. She's perfect to answer the questions from the parent perspective. And my partner will be there, so he can answer the partner perspective, how he learns, how he deals with someone on the spectrum. So I feel like we covered a real vast range of, from having it to people dealing with it and stuff, to really cooperate and come together and have this space where you can just offload and know it's not just you, it's okay. And, and people can come and see me and be like, as well. Because I remember the first time I went to somewhere where it was full of people like me, and I just couldn't believe it. Because the media portrays, autism with like a backpack, someone with a backpack on with big glasses on with no mates at the back of the bus. And, I'm not like that at all. I'd like to seem quite cool. And then we've got in the night, starting from, I think it's 4 till 6, 5 till 10-year-olds, is a art, mindfulness, creative kids group, where we're going to, and then it continues after that, from 6:30 till 8:30, to 11 to 18-year-olds. And this is going to be just a fun karaoke youth centre vibe, but it's going to be, prompts with different words each week, from bullying to friendships to how to connect, to looking at well-being, to looking at our self-esteem. Like, I naturally do this just to provide the space of mindfulness for kids to just offload in and be creative in. And I'm also really going to look at, the crime in our area and how we can contribute that into our space, and how we can, break down them barriers, even if it's like graffiti, I can be turned into graffiti art and provide a space for that. Yeah, but it's going to be really good. I'm excited for that. It's going to be really, really cool.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Sounds like you're going to be very, very busy throughout September and then beyond. And I'm sure as people sort of engage with the service, you'll expand those and sort of look at different ways of doing things as well. But great to hear that so many different age groups are accommodated as well, and through different times of the day and stuff like that. And the vegan paint's always a good one, because as a parent of little ones, whether it's vegan or not, they're going to eat it. It's going in the mouth. so it's one of the best.
I get vegan natural yogurt and natural food colouring. I do love that I can provide these environments for children and adults to just let go and to get messy and to have an outlet completely.
What are those things for you now, though, that you do to just keep your own sort of issues within check? If you notice a bit of depression that's coming through, or you notice there's something that seems to be flaring up, what are those things that you're doing now just to keep those in check?
They do flare up, and I'm not going to sit here and say that, oh, healed. They're not. They don't really. It comes in waves, and I think the first thing to do is recognise it and tell somebody as well, my partner, or tell me mum or somebody, it's flared up again, I'm getting intrusive thoughts, this is what I'm thinking. Sometimes when I tell someone what I'm thinking, it takes the power out of it. So that's like the first thing I do, but also try and notice when I'm not eating good as well. So try and, even if I'm still eating crap, get fruit in, get veg in, get some things going on in there. Exercise at least 2-3 times a day. I think learning a new fact every single day, even if it's something daft, that makes me laugh. Like it could be like, the Eiffel Tower grows in the summer a little few inches, or things that feel pointless, but the brain kind of, through neuroplasticity, expands slightly when you learn something new, and this massively helps. I think meditation. I haven't done it for a while, but I need to get back into it. But mainly, drawing. I think being a part of a club always helps as well. Being a part of a group, and that's what I hope that dopamine rooms can provide. Keep on top of things, but I think that's another thing as well, like recognising that with autism, you need chill out time, you need unwind, calm down time, away from everybody, away from noise and distraction, and to de-stimulate too, to undopamine in a way.
Sarah, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for joining us today. Really appreciate you sharing your story. It's great to hear about all the activities that you're involved in. We'll get links to both those organisations and projects on the podcast notes as well, so people can get in contact with you through that. And then fingers crossed, that can be a big success. I'm sure it will continue to be an ongoing one. Thank you for joining us on Mental Health Monday.
It's been amazing. Thank you.
I hope you've enjoyed this week's podcast. Thanks for checking out Mental Health Monday. My name is Mick Coyle. You can find me on Twitter at Mr. Mick Coyle. You can also find me, Mick Coyle, on Facebook as well. Don't forget, if you want to speak to somebody about your mental health, you can do so. The Samaritans, free to call on 116 123. You can find mental health services where you are. Just look for the Hub of Hope. Type in your postcode. It'll find those mental health services close to you. And for support in a crisis, you can text SHOUT to 85258. That's if you're experiencing a personal crisis, you're unable to cope and need support. Shout to 85258. That's a text line. Do get involved in those services. In an absolute emergency, always remember the number to call is 999. Thanks for downloading the podcast this week. We'll be back next week with more Mental Health Monday.